Really? Like, yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this special July session to order. Would you all please stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We do have a quorum, missing one, but we do have a quorum. Right off the bat, we'll start by any changes to the agenda.
You do have a revised agenda with action item C added on.
Thank you, sir. Now would be time for the election of the to elect 24-25 board chair and vice chair.
Thank you. I make a motion that Gary Jones stays at chair and Bonnie Boer stays at vice chair.
Second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to keep Kerry Jones as the board chair and Bonnie Brewer as the vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You're unanimous. Community comments. Individuals may present a community comment to the board on agenda items. Please note on the sign-in sheet which item you wish to address and fill out a community comment card at the sign-in table. You are limited to no more than 3 minutes. You may address the board on a topic not on the agenda if it does not pertain to a complaint against a staff member. However, the board reserves the right to refer the matter to the administration. Anyone unable to attend a board meeting in person may submit community comments on a hard copy or email to the board secretary. Community comments received by 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting will be included in the meeting. Any comment received after 3 p.m. will be saved for the next regularly scheduled board meeting. Submit comments to the Reedsport School District address 100 Ranch Road, Reedsport, Oregon 97467, or via email stipton@reedsport.k12.or.us. And we do have my official little time girl. We do have one community comment card, and Ms. or Mrs. Lee, I'm not even gonna attempt your first name.
Aqualicia.
Yeah. That's right.
It's
How is that pronounced?
Aqualicia,
Aqualicia.
flower.
That's kind of cute. All right.
I'm the PE/health teacher over at the high school. And it came to my attention that there was a misunderstanding from the board for why the locker rooms were closed down last year. So I was just trying to clarify, I can't say get ahead of the rumor mill since it was months ago. But clarify that the locker rooms were closed partially because boys be boys in locker rooms, but girls also had issues in their locker rooms. Ultimately, the issue was a lack of supervision in the locker rooms because I'm the only PE teacher now. I mean, Coach Watts now has a weightlifting class also. But due to a lack of supervision in the boys' side, we were told to close the locker rooms. Told there were options to prop the doors open and I could stand outside of the locker rooms and listen in for issues. But that seemed creepy and doesn't give me a solution when they're fighting, and I'm not gonna go run in to break up a fight in the boys' locker room. So due to lack of supervision, we would close the locker rooms for the remainder of last school year. I'm at a point where I'm now trying to prep for the upcoming school year, and I don't know if that issue has been resolved. I know we had budget cuts, and so I'm hoping with your help to come up with a plan of action so that we can reopen the locker rooms for the students.
Thank you. Just so you know, we have discussed that in fact, and so, yes, that will be addressed and hopefully you'll be relieved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that was our only comment. Is there anything on the board, John, on the screen? Nothing. Yeah, okay, thank you. All right.
You still have a minute left.
Thank you. We're going to move to reports. Assistant business, oh, no, you're not Josh Crew.
Not.
You don't even have the same color hair. You don't wear glasses.
It's tan.
That's all the farther we're gonna go with that. Rachel Amos will be giving us a report.
I will be. Josh has, started the School Finance Academy this July. Used to be called the New Business Manager Institute, and, my preference in running my program and training at business managers is they do complete a full first year before they start that academy. So he started that academy this month, in addition to him finishing his bachelor's degree this year in accounting, so he's gonna be a busy boy, but I told him I would fill in for him today, so here I am. And it may be one of the last times you see me this year, so take, full advantage of it. So, reports. It's July, we're trying to close out, we're an approval district, so we're trying to still close out, last fiscal year, we're just starting this fiscal year. Getting a sense of where we ended up in grant claims, making sure that we get our claims in by the deadline for federal funds, so we can get it on our audit for our schedule of federal awards. So a lot of work being done. Not a lot of changes, we haven't had a legislative session, it's a long session coming up. But there is one piece of news that I want to share, that the legislative session is going to be impactful for us. So a couple of years ago, I shared that there was a change in the Secure Rural Schools Act at the federal level, and they determined that federal forest fees could not be counted as local revenue. And so they stopped doing that in the 2021 school year or so. And they had our federal forest fees separate. We didn't get it taken away from our state school fund anymore. So that happened in that year and moving forward. But there was the issue of that law went into place and nobody at the state level saw it or noticed it or did anything about it for almost 3 years. So there has been a lot of pushback from school districts saying, hey, this law went into effect, you need to retro it back. So they've been doing a lot of work at ODE and calculating what that looks like and for those missed years. And the determination is that for our district, as of yesterday's email, when they sent out the allocations, for our districts, that's roughly $250,000 that they owe us for that time period. So they have submitted a proposal to the state, the legislature, to look at adding funds as a one-time thing to the state school fund, because once they finish out a year in a state school fund, it's done. There are no other funds available. They balance it out and some districts pay back and some get extra and it balances to zero. So they can't just say, oh yeah, these years you were owed this money and we have this money right here. So the legislature is going to be given a proposal that they add funds to the state school fund as a one-time thing to give districts back that are owed this money. So what they have given us as of now is that they believe that this is going to pass in the long session and that on or before October 1st of 2025, we should be receiving those funds. So we may have a little over a year to wait, but there is hope of a one-time sum of money on the horizon for us. We're not like Portland Public Schools, who was overpaid almost 2.5 million. So I'm not sure what they're gonna do to those districts, but we have good news. So I just wanted to share that because it was kind of an exciting thing for us yesterday.
Sorry, repeat that again. What about overpayment?
Yeah, they haven't talked about what they're addressing for the districts who were overpaid for
Out of,
out of the state school fund.
but not in relation to the forest.
Yes,
What?
yes. So there are an equal amount of districts that were overpaid during that period because of the balancing, because they had to rebalance everything. So then they were given more money than they should have, and we were given less because of our federal forest fees.
And being an urban setting doesn't affect.
Yeah. Hey, I'm right there with you on the state school fund calculation, although I also know that that is a big topic of conversation for the long session for the legislators to look at that calculation too. So maybe we'll have some other hope on the horizon, but when they submit a list via email that has a dollar amount associated, that means that they're strongly advocating and they have a positive lens that it's going to get passed. So fingers crossed. As far as the rest of it, we're making adjustments to local service plan orders based on things that we talked about in the budget. A couple of items that we did not, during the last 6 or so weeks of the school year, our adaptive life skills numbers increased for kids that were in their IEPs put into that program. So we do have an adjustment there in the negative to what is going to impact our budget. We have our local service net order, I think, at 11, and it's coming in at 17 now. So the contracted service for the SPED director, the first job that is going to be performed is a file review for all of those students to determine if they indeed are required to be in adaptive life skills for the entire year. So we are hopeful that that will move us positively back to the right direction as well. So next month we'll have basically a closeout. I know it's only like 2.5 weeks away, but a closeout of 23-24 and a good projection of where we've started 24-25. So you'll see 2 financial reports in the board packet next month. Other than that, you have any questions for me?
Our new auditor is that a private person or a company?
It's the same auditor that we've had. This will be their 3rd year, I think. They're a private company. Junior Davidson.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're out of Roseburg.
Any other questions for Rachel?
You're welcome.
Okay, next is superintendent report.
So one item that I put into your package, and we're going to have more sorts of things on a recurring basis. This is a maintenance ticket report. So one looks like this. All blue dots and pie charts. The report section is after the financials. And what this is you'll see at the top is our last 6 months, number of requests for maintenance, custodial, facilities, any request through the health ticket process that's not technology. There's a report of what it was for, whether it's resolved, whether it's being worked on, whether it was a high priority item, low priority item. So just a visual work tickets that we receive through the year. Looking at the total number, it's roughly about 270 tickets in the last 6 months that people have submitted, and just some outcomes of what that looks like.
Reminds me of ticket. How does a ticket get submitted?
To the help desk. And
Is that internal software or is that just?
it's not tied to our synergy, so it's a software program. It's a secondary software that we use specifically for this. Technology has one, so
Let's load it on the internal server.
yeah, that staff have access to, so they can put it as a tab on their screen. They can click on it and say, hey, I need my computer fixed. Hey, my water's not working, whatever they need to report. And it goes to the appropriate department for resolution.
How does a board member submit a ticket?
Made a note here to get help desk access for the board members, so that you can have access to putting in tickets also. I did that in our last session. So that's something I'll have. There'll be links to the site, and just go log in and fill out the site, what your request is for.
So you'll give us directions, step-by-step directions to access that, please?
And they can look through anchor and directions there as well.
Here it says the emails have been one of the versions. Emails. Just as origins, why not
Yeah, okay,
mobile app and email?
so are they doing it on their phone, doing it on the web application, which is the software link on the computers? Or are they just saying, hey, come fix my water and not using the help system and then we're having to enter it
Okay,
for them because they didn't use the system?
are they maintenance, or who are they emailing to?
They'll probably directly to Mike Shopping or Tosh Tipton to respect them. And this is maintenance that is belonging to Mike. But when people don't follow the process, 32 out of 270 times, that he's having to do that for them and then go work on whatever the issue is.
Okay.
And what's determined as priority?
They self-select. And something that's heating or cooling or safety or security, get it. Mike does have the ability to go in and change priority on something. Sometimes perception affects priority of the decision. But some things, he might upscale, even upvote as needing a higher level of priority. And when he gets these, he's able to assign them to his custodial staff. And so when they see something has been ramped up to a higher level of priority, they, even if it's further down, they need to deal with that one first. So that just an example of our software system we use. This was a quick report we can run and it gives a little bit of information for the board about maintenance and custodial and facilities.
You said you'll include that in
Regularly, it's probably about quarterly. This is 6 months of information, so I probably won't age a lot unless staff really become very consistent every single time of always entering a ticket, which, you know, pros and cons versus, hey, Jake, can you come over here and help me with my sink, or, you know, so there probably won't some huge swings in the numbers in a month.
So you see the status, that means, like you're bringing on the statuses. Those are still projects in progress, right?
Progress.
So that's his report back as to how those tickets are being resolved.
He could report, and this report doesn't show which ones are in progress or new. But
Well, I mean, just.
is there a way to drill down deeper?
he can, he
He
see.
can,
Oh, yeah, he can actually see every item, but then
can anyone else see?
his staff can, because they have to know what item they're working on specifically.
Can you drill down?
I could ask him to give me a more detailed report. At some point, there's balance to, he might, how many projects are you working on that need to get done versus going over them individually with him. So I don't think I'm at a point I need to have, the micromanaging of it. But I can see it.
Okay, so
What's the
what's
question?
it's overdue? There's 200, it's not set, but it's all blue. I'll say.
Okay, one more time.
The overdue,
Well, bottom left.
bottom left.
Yeah, that's,
Probably something
I
that's
think we're
not.
too small of a system that's not something that he's got set up. The in progress and new is probably the extent of the ones he's looking at. I think a larger system, because anybody can purchase this software. Set all kinds of parameters and how the information that you want to drill into, so you can set the system up to do what you want. This is a report that we've not taken advantage of. But you can also see which ones are new, which ones are in progress, so we have 20 and 20 respectively.
Okay, so nothing has happened on the bottom left one.
No, that's just the total.
Unused,
It's just the total.
Yeah,
unused.
Okay.
they just say it's overdue because it defaults to a time period on them and he doesn't adjust the time period on them when
Okay.
it comes in. So
Okay.
they just all show that they're overdue, whether they're finished or not.
Oh, good.
Carry over right back to your question. Charlotte's saying that if you will send help desk requests to her, any of you, she will enter them. Carry over right requests, she'll put in the system
Via
for you.
email, we can just do it.
Yeah,
Okay. Don't look like she's generating a lot of.
well, no, she'll put your name on it.
Every time.
John, you don't have to notice if them 2 bags full of dirt have been moved. over here.
Over the softball field. They moved off field onto field because Mike, Ryan, and I think Bob Huebner and his laser level, and they're out there
Cool.
finding the high spots and the low spots, and they've been digging stuff down. They're gonna start filling, but they're, what I was told today is area behind second base has to be level first before they take the next steps. And
Great.
we're waiting for, I think it's Bob. Is somebody moved with the laser level, so they're getting good measurements.
So thank you.
Okay, lots of stuff here. We have some recalls of staff positions that still need to happen. In the same way that we have to be very detailed and very careful about all the order process and laying people off, we need to do that with our recall. If you take an action tonight that hires a vice principal, there's going to be another opening. And so be sure that we know what our openings are so that we properly recall people into positions. It's going to take a few more weeks. There are still recalls of staff that need to happen for the school year. While it's a bit nerve wracking to wait, we do need people to continue waiting. We do still have time for school year to get those people slotted into positions.
Are you keeping staff kind of updated?
People who are in that kind of close range, are made aware, and there are people who I think are hopeful that we'll get down further in and are still kind of waiting to hear.
Okay.
I think now that we've hired, or if this action is taken tonight to hire vice principal, a few more things will fall into place and some job postings will be happening, and then we'll recall happen a little bit more quickly.
John, does it look like we'll get all of our recalls back?
We won't get down that far. And that's just part of the reduced revenue
Yeah.
that we see.
I understand. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I didn't think so, but it's just.
Those are, you don't want to speak to that. Ranges,
Yeah.
and it's okay to take note.
3 recalls. And it depends on costs of some of the hires.
Gotcha.
And when you
Right.
hire back, what money's left for the next recall or not recall.
Understood. Nice to know that there are some not insignificant numbers of people that may be coming back. That's good news.
Good news, yeah.
Okay, last month, you asked me to get back to you about Head Start and lease agreement. And Head Start, in order to pay a lease, would have to take it out of their operating budget. It's not something they can request more grant money to cover. That was the question you had. You said that if they can just request more grant money to cover it, to go ahead and do it. It's the direction you gave me, but they are not able to do that. And I was supposed to come back to you with whether or not we want to pursue renting the spaces to them, similar to what they do with Peel School District. We continue to practice, we have this point of being a good partner. And there are students and having them use the space, and we know that our students and youth sport hopefully are being served. And so I think there's a bit of a discussion board needs to have in a direction with whether you want to pursue a rent or at this point not pursue it. So, and we
Rachel Shannon.
want to chime in.
I don't know that it's going to be something that is necessary to pursue based on what we would be able to charge them for. So we'd have to come up with a market rate and then the classroom space size. And really the market rate is between $1 and $1.25 a square foot per month. Will it be impactful to our budget? Not enough to even come close to a salary and benefit package for an individual. And it will affect how the services are rendered to our kids, and that's probably more important.
Well, and last month, the decision was made to not charge sports fees, and that would be probably a similar type of a situation. The money we get would be something, but it probably causes as much harm as good in the big picture.
Are we gonna need to add that to it as an action item to vote on it?
No, I just need direction from you, either pursue it or not pursue it. So when you get down to the board discussion, we'll make a note to give me some direction about what you want. When you talk about it. Alternative school. We spent the end of the year considering this and spent the summer talking about it more. We know that behaviors have been challenging in schools, and we're also aware that some students have need for a different type of environment. We're going to try to model this year with an alternative school / resource of using online education coupled with one-to-one high dosage tutoring. If kind of work with me and on this, we're going to go pick up a kid at their house for a 1 hour session at a scheduled time, bring them into the school district for one-on-one tutoring at that student's grade level on the material they're working on online, what that student needs, where that student is at. The hour, take them home, go get the next kid, bring them in for an hour. The one-on-one high dosage tutoring is seen as the comparable to a full day of classroom instruction. When that kid is getting all the attention, not being provided by any other classmates, and specifically what that student's needs are, that's seems the next person. We're going to keep the kid enrolled online. They can work at home, and that's will be part of the expectation. But the tutoring piece, I think, will be what helps make it effective for the student. Hiring a teacher who will also be a chauffeur, a driver, mounting the minivan with a forward and backward facing camera so that while there's passengers, while there's students in the vehicle, we can see that everything's copacetic, that there's no problems on the ride when the student is in the building. Of course, we treat them like everybody else. They're in and out of our classroom, getting to the tutoring services on site, and then we return the student home afterwards. And we've got cameras in the vehicles to track that everything went well. I think we can probably run between 10 and 20 students in a program like this. Maybe students who have struggled with behavior in the schools that are close to being put up for expulsion. This might be a different option to still keep public education accessible to them, but not have it occurring so consistently in the brick and mortar that whatever was disruptive up to that point continues. We've got an agreement with Lewis Transportation to use their minivan for the time being, a 3-month trial to see what we need to do. Is this going to work?
They're gonna have a driver,
Our teacher is going to be the driver.
so
We're not going to pay that rate because we wouldn't be able to afford that many trips. The way the current contract is with transportation, be cost prohibitive.
but it comes into the time. So that teacher, if that teacher's on site, that teacher could be managing more students if they're not the person driving.
This teacher is only doing one-on-one tutoring alone. They don't have a classroom.
No, I know. What I'm saying is if you have your taxi service rolling, there can be pickup and drop off with no time for that teacher. I mean, they're not getting in a car, driving, picking up, dropping off.
That's,
How much time is that gonna suck up?
it's not a time issue, it's a money issue. Every trip has to be paid the daily rate, and we dealt with that last year. Our transportation costs were extreme last year with the numbers of drop-offs and pickoffs. And the current contract we have with transportation, if we did every day, the model that we're talking about it here, with their drivers, I think possibly we wouldn't even be able to approach this program. It is super expensive to pick up and drop off like that. Now, if the parents would bring them in and drop
Oh,
them
yeah,
off,
well, that's another question. If there's behavioral issues that require a student to be in this program, why wouldn't they then? Why would the parent be responsible or the guardian be
if the
responsible?
parent,
for getting
if the
them
parent would participate and be reliable, then we could take advantage of that. But taking away that, well, you're not letting my kid come into school or you're keeping them out, I'm not gonna help. We're removing that. If the parent's going to participate and bring their kid in on time and receive their tutoring, you're right, we can get more students in and speed the process up. But removing that as a barrier so that it's off the table.
So this hour of,
Sorry.
they will get, will be, does that include the driving time, pick up and, I mean, are they gonna get the full hour after they get?
Full hour of tutoring.
Okay.
And
So
so
how many, I mean, you could
4
sort
to
of
5 minute day.
estimate 4 or 5 in a day?
Now, imagine a
What if they're Smith?
where a family wants to pull two kids out and close the same age. You might grab two at the same time. It kind of depends on who's and what's and in the
Well, this
waivers.
isn't something that parents can just opt into, right? This isn't an opt-in program,
You have to control it because we
right?
won't, with one teacher doing this, we won't be able to have an infinite number of slots.
Right.
So if the model is, we have a waiting list developing, we might have to look at expanding the model, but we need to try it first. We need to see if this has legs to be effective for the students. Hopefully to keep them re-engaged with the school or to re-engage the family with the school because they're dissatisfied with something. Maybe it's a re-entry system. Maybe it helps students who have struggled with behavior. I see a lot of potential for some of the challenges we face to be addressed. But until we see who our audience is, who's asking for, who's taking advantage of this, we're gonna have to learn a little early on.
So this is a by request thing, not a, no, the school district is saying we can't manage this child in school.
This might be an assignment thing. I've already got a couple students in mind right off the bat.
Right.
Based on how we ended the year, that we might want to have conversations about how we want to start the year,
So you're gonna,
Oh,
I'm sorry, Karen. Is this gonna be K through 12?
K-12.
K-12.
And another reason to drop them off, because you might have a kindergartner 1 hour and then a senior the next hour, and you're not going to probably effectively work with two various age ranges at the same time. So you need to kind of set your schedule. Do you have families who will bring their parents in? Get a kid walk and be there on time. There's lots of little
Do you have
management
mod-
issues.
So this is a model that has worked in other places?
Alternative schools, yes. The transportation, when it's done at a large level, it can be part of it, but we don't own our own transportation to control that. And so with our contract currently, we wouldn't work. We're gonna have to do it a little different. And that's where the teacher piece comes in.
Is there grant money potential for funding something like this? Like that could help fund the transportation piece?
I think if we look for it, find it, we've been more focused on trying to design the model and determine if we have staffing available, how, what the driving, what the vehicle would look like. And, just trying to work out the nuances. I think if it has legs, it appears to work, then putting more effort and energy into how, or if we have waiting lists and growing the numbers of staff doing it. I'm not sure how it will work in our community until we try it again.
We had something similar back in the J. Call and Vanderclay school, and we called it REAP. But it was back here in the room back here, and most of the kids, they could ride the bus if they, maintained order. But there was a couple of kids, I was a school resource officer at that time, and there was a couple of kids I'd go to the house and pick up and bring in. that was just part of my duties.
Most alternative programs that don't have transportation struggle with attendance, and most of the kids who get put in out of school because they're not attending or they're not doing well in the regular class and not showing up. So taking away the excuse that I can't get there because we'll get you there.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're going the right direction.
We need to try it. Something that we talked about as an administrative team prior to working with the union here recently about nuances of a teacher driving kids around, working with Lewis Transportation. He's gonna let us use one of his minivans to start because we've got one that was for the adult program that he's not using right now. We'll figure out after a few months if what the next step is to move forward or realize it. As well.
Well, one of the things that comes to mind is grant money for electric vehicles, like that might be a dedicated, like dedicated program, let's get a smart car. No, but I mean, you know what I mean, like a small energy efficient vehicle may be able to tie into a federal program. I mean, I know that the electric bus program is, there's been potential for grant money for electric buses.
We'll try for one.
Try it for, but what if we're talking about a much smaller dollar amount, for a single vehicle, energy efficient can be used because it's just one kid or two kids, it doesn't have to serve high volume.
Right.
So
And
I'd like to look at that potentially.
I think there's a lot of good potential for this, and we see how our audience responds to it, what our need is, probably can fine tune it a lot more. We're starting pretty cold here with an idea that works in other systems at larger scale, we're trying to make it fit us in a smaller scale.
But we're addressing some of the behavioral concerns in the classrooms and coming up with positive solutions.
Hopefully some re-engagement. If we can find a few families interested perhaps in getting a soft reintroduction to the school system, because being disenfranchised with a different element.
Sure.
There's potential here for lots of directions. And how we attack it and what we start with isn't necessarily how it ends up. We need to kind of respond to what we're seeing. Napa School District up there in Northwest, over by Seaside. They had a policy several years ago during COVID, policy on civility. And they went through the process of developing this policy to kind of address the problem of they had a lot of uncivilized conduct in their school district, and the board is, what can we do? We've had discussions about our culture in our schools and what we need to see differently. So I've been on the phone with there's Bill Fritz, he's a superintendent up there, and say, hey, Bill, how'd you do this? What was your approach to a policy that's attempting to impact widespread culture, civility, just expectations? And he ran through what his mechanism was. The gist of the policy is that it's what does the people expect and what do they commit to doing with those expectations? And the groups they identified are administrators, teachers, staff, teachers, students, parents, community at large, board members, and each of those groups annually reviews what do we expect from our school system and what do we commit to doing for our school system under that. And not every group has the same expectations and the same commitments, but the process of having people sit down and review what are we going to do for our school district to make it better, and how does that look? So
Is that a committee process?
the first time that Bill did it, he brought in an outside facilitator because the board had a roadmap of where they wanted to go, but they knew that if they did it individually, it would be received sort of biased. So they wanted a neutral person to come in and work with the different groups and go through a process of determining what expectations does that group have of the school district? And then also, what commitments does that group commit to doing to serve the school district? And that facilitator summarized all of the group's intentions, and each section of the policy gets adapted each year based on what that group's responses are. And staff are broken into licensed staff classes. It's about the policy. I'll email you a copy.
got a copy.
It's NAPA's policy on civility, but I think the intention of school culture and what we do, how we do things can morph very quickly if that's what we want to try to look at here in Reedsville. And I think the intention of using an outside facilitator, so it's not me who may receive a hot or cold reception depending on who I'm talking to, but a neutral person who's just simply doing a job and receiving feedback and helping a group of people identify, this is what we want, and this is what we'll do to get it.
So we can go to their website, and find this policy.
Yeah, Napa School District, KNAPPA. It's Napa with a K, and it's in their K section of policy, but it's called civility policy. So that's right.
And how many, when did they implement it?
Couple of years ago, he said it was a response to some of the COVID. People were just, everything that we saw to the negative of COVID, they dealt with it up there, and that was their board's attempt to address and correct some of what was going on.
And have they seen a positive outcome? Is there,
He
is
says they're
there a
still using it.
commitment to that?
He says they're still using it, and groups still come back and they make tweaks to what they want to do. What it doesn't do, they can, if a parent's blowing out at a basketball game, just losing their mind, screaming and just off the wall. It doesn't really have a consequence for that. It doesn't, other than, hey, this is our expectation. I mean, this is what our board policy says. You could probably go through enough repetition with a parent and just say, you know, you're not invited here because we have a policy that expects something different from our parents. But it creates a base point for the communication you had about, hey, this is what parents in Napa have agreed to do and what they expect to be done, or what we expect in Reedsville for commitments and expectations. It creates a basis of communication. It establishes it as an important forefront commitment effort from the board for the running of the schools. It becomes a focal point. So
And gets community buy-in, because those are the people who've told us that behaviors are an issue in the schools. And it helps make them responsible.
gives them a voice,
Gives them a voice. It's
because it's not, you know,
a better way of saying.
yeah, did the superintendent interpret what we brought to him correctly? We got a neutral person summarizing the information with a group of people and just getting into the format that the policy is asking for, commitments and expectations. And so the voice of the group providing feedback is in that document. When you go to the policy, there's different tabs in the policy. Parents, students, staff, you got to click on each tab, and then it changes each time because each group has different thoughts and responses. So I'm going to bring this policy work to us with your blessing, and we can focus on what do we want to see for a cultural shift, or a civility shift, or a positive culture. We can make it tweak, and I think the method of going about collecting responses and using a neutral facilitator for that work, we've got a good demonstration that that was the right way to approach it. I've got some ideas of other administrators around the district who's tired, who have the opportunity to go through and come in out from the outside and just do a job for us and collect data, and then we can develop a policy based on that, if that is the will of the board.
Sherman's emailed it to us, so it's available now. And we don't want to all just
Thank you, Sharma.
take a look at it. Yeah,
Thanks, John.
it's there.
And I'll put it in office.
Can we start that process sooner rather than later?
I think some of the elements of it, when the administrative team is setting up for the year and we're going to be reviewing handbooks and do all the things to set the stage for school year, for how staff and students feel about school. I think some of the pieces that are similar are going to bleed into the work, but the policy can catch up with us. We don't have to wait for this policy to start implementing some of the ideas of getting clear communication about our expectations, getting students and families to commit to what we're going to do in our schools to be successful. Some of those elements, I think, will start wading into the work when we do start school year. So, or catch up with this policy, and hopefully it dovetails.
Any other questions for John?
That was a lot.
Thank you, John. The consent agenda, actions that are routine or usually call for no discussion, such as approving minutes of previous meetings, acceptance of donations, and similar actions are often handled together in one vote by the board. I'd entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. A and B.
Second.
Then motion been made by Bonnie Bueller and seconded by Jack Daly to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous decision. Thank you. Action item. These are board reorganization decisions and designations for fiscal year 24-25.
Normally you do this in your August meeting because we're dark for the July, but these are the decisions that need to get made as we got a new budget and calendar of processes we're gonna follow. So a lot of these things are done in your first meeting of the fiscal year. And that happens to be July now.
Can I announce all 14 and then just take it one vote?
You could announce them and you could ask for a,
Unanimous.
for a motion
I'm
that
gonna ask
becomes
a
all of
question.
them.
The dates on here, the years 2024, are those correct? Should they be 24, 25?
Should be 24, 25.
Yep.
That's my mistake. Sir.
That's all right. It'll be reflected in your pay. Just kidding. Designate Chief Administrative Officer, John Zemke. Number 2, designate Deputy Clerk Business Manager Josh Cook, Assistant Business Manager from the SCESD. Number 3, designate Custodian of Funds John Zemke. Number 4, designate Budget Officer John Zemke. Number 5, designate Signatory of District Checks John Zemke. Number 6, designate Auditor Nooner Davidson. Number 7, designate Insurance Agent of Record Zalesky Insurance Agency. Number 8, designate District Legal Counsel Garrett Herman Robertson, PC, OSBA. Number 9, designate depositories for school funds, Umpqua Bank, Local Government Investment Pool, and First Interstate Bank. Number 10, authorize the superintendent to apply for grant funds. Number 11, approve the use of alternative education programs. Number 12, approval of newspaper of record, the Register Guard, News Review, and the World. Number 13, authorize cooperative purchasing agreements with other local education agencies, county, state, and federal agencies. Number 14, authorize the Reedsport School Board as the local public contract review board. Anybody, any questions? Entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept action items A, 1 through 14.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Bonnie Brewer, seconded by Jack Daly to approve action item A 1 through 14. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Action item B, to extend the superintendent contract to June 30th of 2027. I entertain a motion.
I make a motion to extend superintendent's contract on July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027.
Second,
Second.
motion been made by Jack Daly, seconded by Bonnie Brewer to extend the superintendent contract from July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2027. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody. That's unanimously. Thank you. And number C, approve administrative hire Missy Watts as the elementary vice principal for Highland Elementary School. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the administrative hire of Missy Watts, elementary vice president.
Principal.
Principal.
I think, no, I would have something to say about that. Can I hear a second?
I second that motion.
Motion been made by Jack Daly, seconded by Bonnie Brewer to approve the administrative hire of Missy Watts as the Highland Elementary vice principal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Okay, action night or down to discussion. Let's here's some comments on the board, how the board feels renting or allowing Head Start to keep doing what they've been doing.
And I'll take it as direction once I understand the will of the board.
Well, if it's not gonna be that great, big of income for us to come and work to keep just getting our kids ready for school, I'm for no rent.
I'm the same. Yeah. Yeah, here,
I'm the same.
all four board member president are in agreement that no rent.
Maintaining the same agreement there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not currently doing this and maintaining it. Right. I understand.
Thank you, sir.
That may be the time to reiterate that we also made the same agreement about sports fees. The last meeting, so
Exactly.
we're not asking for sports fees that are some explosions.
All right, any other discussion? One second.
Right.
All right, let's move to number 13, community comments. Is there any community comments as we've opened this up? Yes, sir.
This is like a speak on.
Could you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what's that?
Could you identify yourself?
I'm
Please?
Joshua Lasky, I'm Aqualicia's husband. One of these days I might go back and work for the school district if I get through all my surgeries. I used to work with special ed. I used to work with these very difficult students that you're talking about doing this program with, John. And I think it's a really, really good idea because they do need special treatment. They're not fitting in. Having worked with this population a lot, they're very difficult. They need individual plans that work with it. And I think the idea of having a teacher drive to pick up students, get them back, gives them a chance to bond. And I think that's something that could really help with these students that need, this extra attention. If they already have families that were doing well, they probably wouldn't, it's usually connected. And so I just want to support, I think that's a really good idea. I hope that you guys follow through on it, getting that connection with those students and that teacher, make a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Eric, I have another one.
Oh, sorry.
I recently received an email from the OEA Teachers Union that says that there has been a change from the governor for the state funding that changes the way the funding is calculated. That changes it from estimates to actuals. And it says that there will be an additional $515 million included in the baseline calculation for education funding. Has the school district heard any additional funding for us?
25, 27 biennium, they're talking about changing the formula. If you follow me for a minute, the The trend line that the legislators use in determining what schools need has been based on a 20-year history of where they have funded schools previously. The LASBO, which is the business managers group for the state of Oregon, has made it very clear that trend line does a horrible job of reflecting what we know are actual needs based on current bargaining and roll-up cost expenses. And the trend line that the legislature has used with this 20-year model doesn't get to the point of adequately funding schools. So one of the big commitments that Governor Kotek made in this decision was, instead of taking the 20-year trend, she's going to look at the 10-year trend. That is going to change the trend line, the slope a little bit. It will see some improvement. So a lot of that $515 million is going to be based on just shortening that old history, cutting off those last 10 years that they've been using to determine what schools need to be funded at. And it does move it a little closer to what is current. It doesn't get to a point of actual expenses and actual roll-up costs and what true current service level is, but it does improve very antiquated thinking of how the legislators have been getting to their numbers.
Right, so that's what I was referring to earlier, that the calculation, that's gonna be used in Governor Kotek's proposed budget for this next biennium, but it's not set in stone. It has to be voted on and adopted by the legislature, so.
Yeah, that was a big commitment. So OEA, OSBA, COSA, in partnership, she really was listening to a lot of the education groups and the lobbyists that have been going on there. And we, I think, pretty appreciative that she has held audience with us and is listening and is trying to take some corrective actions. It's a start. It's not where we need to be, but I do appreciate that we're at least having conversations and being invited to those tables.
Is there any conversation about looking at percentage? So for example, they sort of base funding for our special needs at a certain level. Is there any conversation about looking at those individual numbers so that districts who are impacted more greatly, like our district, have another funding source to meet the needs of those students?
The special ed cap of 11% comes up a lot. A lot of districts would receive more money if the cap was increased, including us. The common number kicked around is 13%, which is an improvement, a step in the right direction. In order to make more money available and to increase that cap, we need to see new money coming in, or we would need a larger slice of the state's overall funding, not just a redivision of the money we're currently using. Otherwise, it isn't affecting anything. So yes, it's always there, but it's done with the caveat of more funding from the state, not from the state school fund that exists.
Well, that's what I would expect, yeah.
Yeah. That's a popular topic, though.
Those are conversations for the long legislative session for this year coming up, and they won't take effect until the new biennium. It won't affect this school year.
So to clarify, I mean, it says an additional 515 million for the school funds, but we're not necessarily actually going to see that here.
Well, in the 25-27 biennium, and then it'll be divided amongst all the districts. So it is an improvement. Anytime the number goes up, we're happy, but it will be a full year before we receive it, and then it'll be divided appropriately amongst all the different districts and different sizes.
So it goes in the governor's proposed budget for the long session, and then as the legislature moves things around and votes on things, then the set number comes out at the end. But we're hopeful that that's the minimum number that's going to be presented.
I think it's real important for people to get hold of their legislators and say, hey.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
very critical.
I got a thing in the mail today that Boomer Wright and Senator Henderson, we're gonna have a town hall meeting here in Florence.
They were great.
By the time I got to the mailbox.
They did. They were great for it.
Did you go?
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff.
Well, I guess according to Mindy Borvik up in Florence, Governor Kotek joined them in Florence this afternoon. Out there.
It's not much either.
it was just Senator Anderson and,
We were right.
Boomer, and the governor's finally decided, by God, I think our rural communities
Need some help.
school needs some help. He's going, this is not working. I said, the problem is up there, when you talk rural, they all look at Eastern Oregon.
Yeah.
And he said, sorry about my language, he said, they don't give a shit about the coast. And that's in everything, education, everything. So he said, they're trying to change that.
All right, board member comments. Yeah.
They
Anything?
said it all.
All right. That's it. Bonnebuer.
I'm looking forward to a nice school year. Done with our policies, our big policies for, we do it last year. This year, let's get a fresh start. And hopefully everybody will communicate, share their views. Complaint forms if you need it. Please utilize what we have to offer for you so that we can address the needs right away instead of wait until it ends up to a big nest of rotten feathers, I guess.
Done?
Yeah.
Carry all right.
I'm done yet.
Well, she took a rest, so I can help finish.
And I guess I get.
No, I'm done.
I would just like to say to, broadly to the community, anybody who's listening and anybody who cares. If you're thinking that we aren't addressing, aren't talking about, aren't looking to finding solutions to some of the issues and the problems that we brought up in the spring. That is most certainly not the case. And normally we don't meet in July and we're here and we're talking. And we're looking forward to a better, positive school year, even with budget considerations. The money isn't the issue and we'll find solutions to problems. And move forward, working together for the betterment of our students. That's all.
Mr. Jones?
I got nothing. I knew I'd shock you, but nothing.
Oh, my goodness.
Future agenda, our next board meeting will be Wednesday, August 14th at 5:30 p.m.
All right.
And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, audience, for coming in,
Very much.
joining us.